Hello everybody, welcome to Let's Play on the mission Barbarossa to Berlin. And this is the 4th episode in Kalinin raid, the scenario I've been playing for the last 4 weeks. And the situation, well, I'm bringing the tanks up to the front lines to battle the what seems to be an advanced column or advanced part of the armor column, the Germans. As you can see, the half-track aiming at the T-26. The second T-26 it aims to destroy, and this is second. I mean, you can see the T-26 already been destroyed just behind it, and now he's trying to move to the church in order to catch a breath. And these guys are trying to also move to the front lines before everything hell breaks loose. And it's going to take some time. Yeah, it's going to take at least 2 turns, I think, in order for them to actually go there and then try to have line of sight in order to bring their guns to the Germans who are still traveling along this road on Volokolamsk highway. The line of sight seems to be hit or miss. Since, I mean, I was able to... from here, I couldn't really target the half track, although it seems like I could. I mean, if you draw a straight line from that gun to the half track, I think you can sort of make it. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, just trying to get the big armor to the front lines. I don't know where the front line is actually, just to let them battle out and see where everything may fall. And yeah, some of these guys are out there, regular tank. I think the only regular tank that I have right now that can actually fire a gun. So that is there, and as you can see, the conscript also is actually a bit bored. I don't know whether there has to be... I don't know whether the place should be exchanged. Maybe the regular guy should be a bit at the forefront. But yeah, that is why it is, and then I'm bringing another tank there into the mix. It's a veteran, but the gun's damaged. So, I mean, I don't know why I'm bringing that guy to the front lines. The veteran is actually able to move pretty fast, so I'm kind of thinking about using it as a troop transport. And all these other guys, conscript and green level tanks. This guy is immobilized. His I think tank tread is stuck in the snow, and these kind of things happen. I don't think that was actually from the airstrike. And here, this is immobilized tank, abandoned, but then you can see the track is firmly on the road, which means that it's been immobilized by some physical force, like being hit in the tread. Yeah, and then some other immobilized tanks guarding the highway, now they're empty in front of them. Well, I mean, it's not really empty, it's full of burning trucks and other tank carcasses, if you will, but yeah, they're kind of just alone by themselves. And here you can see a bit better. I'm trying to move the tanks, and that Lukin tank, Lieutenant Lukin, the leader of this group, is trying to move toward the infantry to maybe transport them to some other place, I don't know, God knows where. And yeah, the conscript level tanks are trying to move. They change their positions. Instead of going to right, they're going up the road toward Moscow to get a better vantage point and place them a bit behind the frontline guys. And this guy called Chikitishvili, yeah, Chikitishvili, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sorry. He's trying to go all the way to Moscow using the fast T-26 tank. First attempt to do that using the same tank ended in failure because it stopped midway. And this guy is also Popov is trying to go. The Popov is trying to use the buildings as a sort of a shield against the encroaching German armor and other elements that can surely knock it out. And some infantry and some light tanks are also trying to just find the position where they are able to bring their fire upon the Germans without being seen, or at least ambush them with first shot, I think, because first shot is sometimes all it takes to knock a tank out. And Popov, as you can see, is burning tread right now. as fast as he can go. And actually he's shooting back. Yeah, that's pretty admirable of him. And one tank knocked out on the high ground, unfortunately. So one shot is all it takes sometimes, and especially if it comes to the veteran tank. Popov is stalling a bit, I don't know why, maybe because of the tank on the road. He's trying to be a bit careful. As he's a conscript, he needs to be very careful with the tank and then everything. And yeah, as you can see, the plane buzzing around still. Yeah, he's being shot, Popov is being shot, and is knocked out while moving behind the building. He's knocked out, but the tank shot Popov through the building. Through the building. That's how good that guy is, a German gunner is. I can't believe that actually happened. It is just unimaginable type of skill. I mean, I'm just beside myself. Popov just got gypped, and this guy is trying to make his position. Yeah, trying to go and claim a high spot for himself. And next up is Shkishvili. He drives another T-26 into some similar grisly fate brought on by these tanks. He was able to shoot so accurately, and he's a preternatural ability to shoot behind buildings and through buildings, around buildings. Is he actually obeying the law of physics? I'm not so sure, but that's what happened to T-26, driven by one Popov. Okay, so that was not really that great a turn. I lost T-34 on the high ground that I thought they would be able to engage and fight along with the other tanks, but it was just sniped and is now lying in ruins. And T-26 also got shot, as you can see by my lengthy narrative about what happened to it. I'm not really that happy about it, so yeah, I'm just going through it, going through the whole deal here. I had set a plan for these tanks, and then I have to go through it. Just bashing my head against the wall, but that's why it is. I think for the most of the, I guess, Russian forces in the early phase of this war, bashing head against the wall is probably an apt description of what happened to most of them. And sometimes they prevail, sometimes, most of the times they probably didn't end up really well, but I think I get the feeling. If the scenario designer wanted to make the point, I definitely get the point, 100%, of how it was like for a Russian soldier during this early part of the Operation Barbarossa. Anywho, in the next turn, as you can see, I cannot really change the order because changing the order means 2-minute delay for these guys. Oh, some of this infantry is getting targeted by the tanks now. So we see where the line of sight for the German armory is coming from, or whether they're capable of hitting the infantry that far, and they can. They have an expert level gunner somewhere, and they're really bringing that superior optics and superior German gun into the play, which means we have to mass our tank as much as possible and try to just set upon them at the same time using multiple guns and multiple targets so that we can overwhelm them at spots. That's probably the best we can hope for. And that's what I'm trying to do by bringing these two tanks up here in a similar position, where you can see the line of sight leading all the way to that Iron Cross, which is the last known position of the Germans. So let's see, I mean, the last turn was a disaster, a bit of a disaster, but without air raid it's okay. I mean, air raid is not seem to be recurring right now, so Skishvili here, T-26, is now being targeted by multiple German armor, but is able to make it just enough so that it is shielded by the church, big church. And they're firing at these tanks, I think, or infantry. And the tanks have finally made it to a position where I like them to be in order to ambush the Germans, and these guys are now targeting the infantry. Yeah, without question. And they're almost all broken. So I really need to now rely upon the armor in order to travel to Moscow, or at least have a hope of taking the objective. And you can see these guys unbuttoning and then aiming at the infantry on their own. It's a conscript tank, so it is distracted by the infantry while the German armor is lumbering through into their line of sight. I don't know whether he's going to be able to react quickly enough to target the priority target. And here I just go a bit forward and then is immediately checked by the German armor, just machine gun and high explosive shells, and immediately breaks that little attempt. Yeah, very accurate shots as you can see. I don't know whether it damaged them, but... And this tank is not able to see the advanced armor, and unfortunately it just goes out of its line of sight. German armor and half-track have a really interesting ability to just disappear on sight. I don't know how he's able to do it, but maybe the Russian tankers are not really that great in, you know, observing or picking out targets. But they just disappear at will, and it seems like at the moment where I have the chance to fire a shot or something, at least have a chance to knock it out. Alright, so the next turn I'm planning to bring another tank. Behind that advanced T-26, now behind the church, and this T-26 is going to try to blaze a trail to Moscow, to the objective near that, yeah, to Moscow end of the map. And this guy just behind the church as well, maybe he's going to try something that is going to make it a really nice target for the Panzers and to maybe distract them from the main force, which lies right here. As you can see, I'm trying to line up some of the tanks in order to see whether we can bring the most guns in this area or toward that area where I expect the Germans to appear from. Now it seems to be now this tank seems to be a bit off the line, so I probably will have to devise a little bit of tactic in order to bring it more in line with the rest of the tanks. So I'm reversing into across the road toward the hill, a little bit of a hill there behind the rubble, so you may be able to use that rubble for a bit of a screening. So the BA-10 has come online. It was in panic for the last 5 turns or so, or 10 turns. Now it's just shaken, and I mean, you can still shake all you can, but you can still drive while shaking, so it's not going to be that great. It's going to take around 3 minutes for it to recover completely, but at least you can give an order so that after the shaking is over, he is able to drive, and then maybe contribute to the force somehow. Maybe a distraction target for the German Panzers. Alright, so the infantry is basically mauled. They are out of service. They're basically routed and broken and just scattered everywhere, scared to the wind. So it has to be on the backs of the broken armor column or the tanks in order to, you know, produce a rabbit out of hat, if you will. As you can see, infantry here is also broken, checked immediately by the German armor and half-track. So I really have no hope of advancing toward that intersection, toward the Volokolamsk highway to get that objective. It might be very useful, but yeah, I don't think that's really happening unless we score immediate and absolute victory over the German armor. So these guys are all kind of taking cover. I don't know why they're pinned. I think they're just psychologically broken. Just waiting for the German armor still. It's a kind of anxious wait, and you can see them moving. And I think that we may have found our first German Panzer here. And planes buzzing overhead. Not really dropping bombs anymore, thankfully. Another T-26. Yeah, so the infantry is still being targeted by the German armor, scaring them, although the shot is not landing anywhere close. Now this guy has clambered on the top of the Chikashvili, the T-26. I don't know why I ordered it to embark, but I think I just wanted more soldiers immediate vicinity to add to the, add to the force, however little, toward Moscow. And you can see another embarkation of soldiers here on Lukin's tank, the veteran tank, who's able to travel very fast and very quickly. And you can see the Panzer IV, our first Panzer IV sighting by the tank, T-34. It was a bit too late for it to train its guns on it, but it is going to be able to sooner or later. It's still going to its spot near the road, and I think we may have been a bit too late before we get to battle the tanks or Panzers. And the T-26 is now ready to go in 50 seconds toward that objective there. It's moving fast, and hopefully it doesn't stop or even slow down midway, else it's going to be easy pickings for the German Panzers now traveling in groups. The pack of German Panzers now heading our way, now that the half-track has definitely seen the totality of our forces, most of it broken and under strength. So the Panzers can just lumber out and then do their dirty deed there. And I think we are going to be facing some Panzer. Yeah, I'm not really relishing this turn here. Just not really relishing it at all because you have seen what the Panzers are able to do. They can shoot through buildings. They can reload really fast and they can be very accurate. And they travel in packs. So we have on ourselves a heck of a fight. Yeah, and that is a really long road. I think it's around 500 or so, 300 to 500 meters that T-26 has to travel before it can take the objective. And I don't know, Lord knows what kind of defenders we find there as well. Yeah, this is just B-10 moving and maneuvering. It's not really that important. Just the tanks and their position and their readiness to fight is the priority or the primary concern here. Everything has been stripped bare, only the tanks remain in T-34. Are they going to do well? I'm not so sure. We'll have to see. The regular tank is moving a bit in order to, I guess, find a better position for it to shoot. Now it's shooting at the infantry. I cannot really give the armor-only zone of fire to the conscript tanks. It is only a skill that is available to... Oh my goodness! Yeah, that immobile tank was able to destroy the target so that the other tanks might have a better line of sight against the infantry. Now it is finally able to reverse and is crushing some squad of soldiers who's idling. No mercy for the idle soldiers, they have to keep moving. It is rather quick though after it has gotten away from the brush, the thicket. And it is positioning itself behind that rubble. You can see the officers traveling in group. Yeah, the other tank is now also trying to move into position. And now our first sighting, yeah, T-34 immediately breaks out in machine gun because it takes some time to take the gun, and he's able to land a shot. Lucky shot though. But then he's able to land a shot that penetrated that Panzer IV. I don't know whether you knocked it out, but immediately stopped and forced the tank commander and the Panzer to button up, which means good things for us. And yet another tank is shooting at it from unknown position, rather close to the first Panzer that we've seen. And the T-26 is beginning to move. And I think it's a really good time to move because the Panzers will be occupied with fighting the tanks. And you can see the position here, it doesn't seem to be, it's almost there, so you just have to move a bit in order to bring the fire along with the other tanks in the foreground. Same goes for this tank as well on the hill. I do find the high ground to make a bit of difference in accuracy. This tank in the middle is shooting up toward the Germans, upward toward the Germans, and then the tanks on the left is shooting a bit downward, so you see whether that makes any difference. Okay, so we have a tank up there below the church, or behind the church, and trying this shoot and scoot order. It is available to green tanks, not the conscript tanks, but green tanks can do this. They learned this while in tank academy at, I don't know, tank academy in Russia. So shoot and scoot, which means shoot and then just immediately back off in order to get out of line of sight by the Germans. And I think T-34 in the snow is able to do it because it's a pretty fast tank. And it's pretty good in traversing snow, although a couple of them have been bogged down and immobilized. But then I'm betting that he's able to at least distract the tanks from this main force. And we can get some lucky shot. Yeah, another shot. I think that just confirmed the kill shot. And this guy gets shot, and this guy is losing his mind. He doesn't see where the shot came from, so he was very frustrated or something, or in panic. So he moves up in order to get a better view of the tank that shot it. Pretty scary stuff. I think he's going to get hit a lot because he moved up. And this is the T-26 along with the lieutenant on top of it. Yeah, he's buttoning up because he's being shot by the half-track. He's being targeted, but not the Panzers though. Though thankfully no Panzer attacking this T-26, so he's able to drive towards safety. Who knows? I mean, it is unbuttoning once again to see clearly that supposedly we took that objective near Moscow. So this is actually a big accomplishment on Shikishvili's part. Or Ski... I don't know how to pronounce his name. This guy is not moving back. He's shaken. So he's moving back to its previous position. It basically held itself together. The tank commander issued its order to, you know, get a grip. And he's moving back into position so that the German Panzers might be coaxed to come out. Yeah, this guy made it. This guy made it to the objective, and then the objective flag, it tells a story, and the other T-26 is following suit. So it's a really good turn for us because we were able to get a confirmed kill. None of our tanks were destroyed. The T-26 made it to that objective, took it, apparently, who knows. And then we can better face the German Panzers as they come out. Yeah, so this is a pretty good turn for us. Turn 36. And I don't know whether it really made a dent in the percentage, the score percentage, but it creeped up a bit. Yeah, so these guys, infantry in the north, I think, is moving along the pine trees. I don't know why. I set the order, just, I don't know, maybe they should. I thought that they should be moving still, just in case. Because you never know what to expect. Maybe there is some infantry coming out of the woodworks. Yeah, you can see the smoke now billowing from the destroyed tank. And it is unfortunately shielding other tanks behind it. And I don't know exactly how many tanks there are, but I think I counted at least 3 very immediately near our line of sight. And the T-26 Filatov is going to try the similar thing. And this tank is now in almost, yeah, line of sight is there, I think, for it to aim at the Panzers before scooting out. So this guy is also going to be somebody who could be embarking on the T-26 before he travels to where this guy is. And the guy on top of that T-26 is ready to disembark and then go into immediate cover. And you can see that the highway is rather open from that position, so I don't have to advance all the way to the edge of the map because it's going to get targeted. It's really flat, so just have to stay away from the Panzer's line of sight. Alright, so let's see if we can continue this good momentum that we surprisingly found in the last turn. Yeah, so this guy is shaken but still okay. The tank is intact, and now this guy comes out of cover and immediately set upon by the Panzer IV. He's able to shoot. It is basically hit. No serious damage. Yeah, he's now being hit from everywhere. I think I count around 4 tanks now targeting it. And it yeah, immediately goes back. Yeah, scooting out. This is an order. Please scoot, please. Yeah, scoot out of that area. Oh my goodness, more tanks joining the foray here under hit on the regular experienced tank. He's able to just get out of the line of sight. Yeah, he's really lucky there. He's the luck of an Irishman. And yeah, this guy is broken now. Yeah, after being hit and ricochet, it was just enough. I mean, he was already shaken, that tank, and he expertly drives away from the fight. I was really surprised at how he's able to drive so nimbly around the house, around that building. But I mean, that is what it is, and he's broken. Our best tank is now broken, so I mean, these guys are now left to the wolves, basically. Left to fend for themselves without any kind of leadership on the part of the regular tank that I set behind them, in the hopes of making it stable, you know, only element of stability there. But then that's the tank that was broken and is more or less out of service, rendered useless basically. So the student scoot, I don't know whether it worked, but it did work for the time to divert the attention of the Panzers. Maybe it saved a couple of tanks because of... Oh my goodness, what happened? Badanov, the lieutenant who was on the top of the T-26, was shot by these Germans. The German infantry squad was hiding among the bushes. Oh my goodness, he was set upon by that guy, and then Badanov is not able to make it to Moscow. Yeah, I didn't realize it happened until after I have moved on to the next turn. And yeah, the T-26 was also trying to go back to where he came from. I don't know why, maybe he was panicked. He was actually fast moving to somewhere, and I had to set it to fight the German infantry squad. Yeah, I mean hiding among the bushes. That was very interesting, unfortunate find. And Lukin's tank has made it behind the building. I don't know whether I'm going to move at all because of, you know, the number of Panzers that are immediately in its line of sight. So I think if Lukin moves out of the building, he's going to get shot and immediately be destroyed. And yeah, I don't know what happened here, but then I find a German trace of German squadron among the bushes, among the trees here near the lake. So I have to just scrounge up all the defeated and broken soldiers here in order to counter it. I have a tank there immobilized, so I guess it's lucky that I happen to have a tank there in order to check it. Yeah, and it has a pretty good line of sight around the area, so yeah, it's really strange. I'm checking the map here. I don't know what happened. I didn't really see that kind of craters when the scenario started, so it might have been the Red Army Air Force was targeting that area for infantry. I'm not so sure why. But then if it did, they made a terrible mistake of not targeting tanks. Really dangerous, and then now engaged with our own tanks. And yeah, this is another problem I have. Need to fight off that infantry squad, and I'm not so sure whether it's been armed with some grenade bundles that can surely throw at it and then destroy it. I mean, I think a high caliber machine gun is able to disable this T-26, so need to be very quick in trying to reinforce that position. And I'm trying to do that with another T-26, Filatov's tank. Trying to go fast and repeat the same type of tactic that I used. Yeah, that German squadron that we seen in the first episode, he ended up there and then was able to ambush that poor lieutenant that got off, and then I guess walking toward the bushes or something, immediate cover, and then but then it was too late for him. So these tanks have made it to their position. Not really, it's still hunting and then trying to get into better line of sight so that it's able to engage the Panzers as they appear. But then the other tank on top of that incline, behind the rubble, is able to target the Panzer IV. And I don't know whether the Panzer is able to see it, but definitely going to feel it when the tanks start shooting. That's Lukin's tank. With gun damage, he's actually, yeah, have made it pretty quickly to the building that I instructed him to go. I mean, the veteran tanks are great because you can move on a moment's notice. It takes only like 4 to 9 seconds before you can act upon your order, so I mean, that's all good and all, but his gun is damaged. I think machine gun is also damaged, so he's basically, yeah, I mean, he's just acting as a bit of a troop transport, and I'm not so sure whether I'm going to be using him anymore because it's way too late. I wonder what the battle would have been like if that Lukin's tank and other regular tank survived the air raid, bombing raid. It might have been a much better position to challenge these tanks. But so far I've been checking them pretty effectively. Let's see what happens now that my other regular tank is broken and is out of service. It's shaking in its tank right now, doing nothing. And this guy's knocked down immediately, yeah, so I mean there's really no help for these guys anymore. But then this tank on a hill is able to target this guy pretty accurately and hit him in the front turret. Now I don't know whether he knocked it out completely, but it's at least able to stop it. Stop its incessant shooting, which is just mind-boggling. You can shoot like so quickly and so accurately. Yeah, once again, the tank is shooting, but then this time it misses pretty badly, so that first shot was pretty lucky shot. That is a conscript tank, I think, or green tank. And now this guy tries to walk toward that flag in order to change it to Nazi flag, but this tank is not having any of it. Trying to continually shoot at it, but I don't know whether it's making a difference, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it's still... I think it's pretty accurate shooting, but that determination on the part of the German squadron is something to behold, trying to walk toward the flag. Yeah, and this guy backs into immediate vicinity of the broken tank in order to see what is up, but disappears. A really good ability to disappear on sight, and just in time. As you can see, it's being targeted by the tank, and is getting out really quickly, just backing out. They're really good at it. And finally, after fourth shot is running. It means that it's routed. I don't know whether it's going to count toward any of the flag changing size, so I think we are in rather good position if that is the only German defender there. So it's called Recon 41 Squadron, so it was a recon squadron, didn't have a lot of heavy explosives, so I think the T-26 is rather safe. So this is what it looks like overhead using the regular unit size, so you can't really see anything. This is actually regular sized tanks, and we have found a whole load of Germans here appearing out of woodworks. Pretty scary sight. And we are just bringing up all the broken down and dilapidated squads in order to fight them off. Some of these guys been involved in the air bombing, so that's why they're under strength and all like injured and all that, but they have to bring their guns. They cannot really rest anymore. It's pretty cool that the Germans thought to bring their troops behind us. Just that we are, ironically enough, that the defeated troops being just considered not really battle ready or battle capable is there to challenge them. Yeah, so half track is, I think, going out of the line of sight, going to make it to safety, unfortunately. But then there might be more targets coming, so need to be very vigilant. So one tank from this group has been knocked out. The regular tank is scared, so that it turned tail. And this guy is running, yeah, so I mean, you're still tracking him. You don't have to track him anymore now that he's running out of the map. Okay, so he's finished. And on the Northern side, things are not really going well. We are trying to move. This guy is already broken, so I'm moving away. And then the tank is able to bring some cannon shots to suppress them. And then also the guys from the house is shooting his machine gun. Yeah, so this guy probably maybe broken or running or in panic. Yeah, so this guy is the only guy left capable of fighting. And it's a conscript tank. I really don't have any high hopes for this guy. This guy is a guy who gets distracted by the infantry. And machine gun... Yeah, okay, so the gun is damaged, so yeah, we are basically wiped out from that position. More or less. This guy is useless, gun damaged. It's kind of funny that the Russians not really able to reload really quick or aim the gun really quickly, but with their machine guns they're able to just erupt immediately, so that's why it is. I mean, if you find a T-34 and then they get engaged in battle, they just shoot machine guns first in order to suppress, in hopes of suppressing whoever is trying to aim at them. And I find that to be pretty interesting, because other tanks do it too, but then for the Russian tanks I find it a bit more prevalent. I think the machine guns can just squeeze its trigger and then able to fire, so I think that's why it is. But when it comes to the guns, they have to actually aim, and they have to reload after aiming, so that's where you find some of the differences. You can see the German tanks start up just from the gun. They just shoot the gun first and then proceed with the machine guns, but then the Russian tanks do it otherwise. Yeah, so I'm here, the tank behind the church. Maybe up for another shoot and scoot now that we are engaged in some heavy battles and guns damaged on the other group, so I'm thinking about another shoot and scoot from behind the church. So we have two Panzer IVs that we can target, and we have some T-34s a bit away from the main battlefield in order to train its guns. And as you can see, I'm doing another shoot and scoot here in order to maybe disperse the enemy's attention. And yeah, not really much happening elsewhere. T-26 is moving toward Moscow once again, and this is just infantry moving alongside the pine tree cover. Not really that useful in the big scheme of things. T-26s are reversing here, trying to get out of the line of sight of the Panzer IVs. Surely it's going to destroy them very quickly, so they need to get out as quick as possible. Yeah, so these tanks are now engaged, this group of tanks, so let's focus on them. So this guy is starting out with machine guns right now, and then it reveals its location and it immediately gets knocked out. Too bad. But the T-34 behind it answers right back. It's been pretty dependable part of our force, the only dependable T-34 in this battle so far. And this guy is running away with its gun damage. I think it's making a good choice here. You don't want to get killed right away. Just sitting duck basically. But he's able to get away just in time, I think, behind that building. The line of sight is obscured, and he is able to survive to reverse once again for another turn. And the fight here still continues on. I think things have stabilized a bit, although we are not out of the woods yet. The Germans are not trying to take a position here and shoot back. And there's some heavy machine guns and all that. And here once again, this shoot and scoot tank is just provoking a whole group of Panzers here. Just coming out from the church once again among the graveyard. And I don't know what's going to happen, but now it's being targeted by none other than three Panzer IVs. And this guy is driving, to Moscow to join his buddy Skishvili to dine in Moscow after all this said and done. And so these guys are so accurate with their guns. It's just easy pickings for them. I really should have tried to bring another T-26 along that highway of death, but I mean, if you succeed once, I mean, you're tempted to try it again, and I thought that I could make it once again, but I think that was a rather needless adventure on my part. So I concede that it's definitely my mistake. The next turn 40, so this is going to be the last turn in, I guess, regulation. Unless the game decides to give me another turn to play. And as you can see, I try to do something with this tank, the regular tank. It is now shaken out of panic status, but it takes 3 minutes for it to act on whatever order I give it. So it's basically not really useful part of our plan. So the T-34 near that church doing a shoot and scoot is now being targeted by multiple Panzers and is marked for immediate knockout. I'm just trying to see whether other immobilized tanks will be able to target the tanks, but really no dice here. It is blocked by the pine trees. I set up the cover armor zone here just in case. Some of these tanks, if they had not been immobilized, would be a terrific addition to try some interesting things, but too bad. So these guys are in the woods. We have driven them into the woods somewhat, using the tank, mostly. And still have to be very vigilant, but I think that area has been stabilized. Now it's going into the final turn. So the only thing remains here, the multiple Panzers now trying to just mop up the T-34s that I have still operational. And these tanks are just starting out with the, and it immediately destroyed the T-26. Unfortunately, it was just too late for me to give it reverse order. But that T-34 takes out another Panzer IV, and I think he's able to knock it out. which is really impressive work on the part of that tank. I don't know why it's so good. Have targeted multiple Panzers now and then accurately penetrated the armor. This guy is not really doing anything, he's just going away, shooting back, I guess, as a defensive measure. But he's able to do its work, I guess. It works pretty good in tandem, if that is what happened just right now. That shoot and scoot tank was able to distract the other tanks, while the tank on top of that hill behind the rubble was able to be more careful with its aim and was able to knock another tank out. Yeah, I think it works pretty well. It's too bad that I don't have any other tanks to try it with, or even place a, place on top of that hill where I find to be very good vantage point. Yeah, so I mean, the infantry also being targeted even here, so definitely that tank is visible. But yeah, it's been pretty interesting so far how some tanks are more successful than the others, and some green tanks are able to hit multiple, can get hit multiple times but do not lose any composure, while some regular experienced tanks, I think they may know better, think that immediate death is upon them and then just turn tail and run away. Yeah, but then they have some self-preservation instinct and then was able to, avoid complete knockout of its vehicles. So I'm rather thankful for that they're able to get out of the way so that they don't get blasted by the armor and then count further against me in the after action report. So we have one more turn, I think, here, 41st turn. It's kind of a mop-up phase for the Germans here. I'm trying to defend as much as possible, and if I can get at least one more Panzer, it's going to be a bonus for us. That tank was able to do really well, beyond expectations. And yeah, these guys are all static. Not really able to even defend themselves. But this guy is the only guy who's holding the Panzers back. And then the Panzers are not really appearing right now. Yeah, so it's kind of quiet. So they're still there, aiming at some of the guys running. And the tank T-26 is not able to really see where the shot is happening. And this guy tries to get out of the cover and he's immediately being shot by the Germans here, as you can see. I think it's broken, but then the officer finally figured out where the German is and is firing back with his pistol. Yeah, it's just a small arms battle going on there, and here we are just trying to track the Panzers once more. And the shoot and scoot tank is set to appear. Yeah, set to appear, make another appearance. I think third time it's not going to be as lucky. Really, I have no choice other than to try this once again to coax them out and to even things a bit in terms of point. And yeah, I mean, they immediately shoot back now with machine guns, and this guy is shooting also. Such out with the bang, but it's too late for that to aim accurately. And here's after action report. So tactical defeat. Yeah, so it's a defeat all the same. And we have suffered mightily. The Soviets have suffered mightily in this battle. Mostly because from the air. I was bombarded like 6 waves to Sunday. You can see the casualties are 4 times as much. Men killed in action 3 times as much. 24 vehicles. Probably 12 of them being destroyed by the air raid. Most of them trucks. And you can see the flag held. I mean, I did try to close a gap here, but I wasn't able to get that Volokolamsk intersection, so that I lost there. And the casualties just, yeah, casualty just got it out of hand, and then out of reach for me. 1100 difference in the casualty figures. Yeah, that's just obscene. And then you can see the handiwork that the Germans did, and I guess in some small part that the T-34 was able to do. And this guy was particularly deadly. 2 T-34 destroyed and 1 T-26 was basically running toward Moscow destroyed, so he was able to shoot through the building. That guy is a magical Panzer IV tank. And once again, 1 T-26 destroyed. Yeah, so they're really good gunners. As you can see, they're all regular experience or more. So, I mean, our conscript tanks really didn't have any chance against it one-on-one. And this guy's gotten damage, so I mean, I guess I was able to land a score hit here before it can do any further damage. And this guy is able to target effectively T-26 from like half a kilometer out. Yeah, so I mean, Germans brought a lot of tanks, as you can see, Panzer 3s and 4s, some of them veteran, and fortunately for them, air raid didn't even touch them, so they're able to just bring the entirety of their unscathed Panzer 4s against our poor T-34s. And you can see this tank case here, T-34 tank case was able to destroy 3 Panzer 4Fs. And I guess we're going to have to give that to Katukov, because he's the guy who gets all the good tanks. Alright, so this T-26 also did a good job, 6 infantry casualties. I don't know where all the casualties came from. He was able to do some thing, was able to pull that off. And the other tanks, other T-34s, not really doing much in terms of damage. Only a few casualties, infantry casualties here and there. Right, so we see some interesting stuff here. We see some half-track that is lagging behind. I don't know whether it was being targeted by our own Air Force so that it stopped midway or something, but honestly, I think the AI wasn't able to use this effectively to cause further havoc, or maybe thought that the battle was over when the air bombings happened, and then most of our tanks were destroyed in that fashion. So I think maybe they just didn't want to, risk this transport, expose them to the tanks and then get destroyed, so they could probably just use the tanks in order to finish the job. You can see the guns here protecting the last stretch toward Kalinin objective. And you can see this so-called HQ didn't even move from the edge of the map where it started, and this guy is all crammed into that, 6 of them in the squad crammed into that Kubo wagon like a bunch of clowns. Yeah, I'm not too happy about how this scenario went. Of course, the area doesn't seem really fair. Now that I see all these transports not really using the troops to full capacity, I kind of understand where the scenario designer wanted to balance things out. The air raid and air bombings is probably the easiest way to balance the difficulty that way. And I guess if you play as the Axis, then the Soviet Air Force might be a bit more active in targeting your tanks and infantry. Alright, it was pretty fun mission. It was pretty fun scenario, although the objective, I couldn't really do anything in terms of objectives or conserving men. And as you can see, the road that we traveled in the last 40 turns are full of destruction and all the rubbles and the men that had been broken down, the flaming trucks and tanks. Yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable. I hope you found it pretty interesting and fun too. I don't know whether I'm going to attempt any 40 plus scenario anymore, maybe in due time. But I'm going to stick with more, quicker missions and maybe possibly custom missions in the future. Well, it was pretty enjoyable. Once again, I hope you enjoyed as well. As always, thank you for watching this LP, and please stay tuned.